Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining the TxRx Echo, brought to you by the Center for Substance Use Training and Telementoring, also known as CSTAT, by BeWell Texas in collaboration with the UT Health San Antonio Echo program. My name is Julio Blanco, and I will be the facilitator for today's session. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Please introduce yourself in the chat by entering your name, your full name, affiliation, and email into the chat. Please remember to stay muted unless you are speaking. We encourage using the chat and/or raise your hand feature to pose questions or share perspectives throughout the session. We would love to have everyone turn on their cameras to increase connection and engagement, though we do completely understand that some situations do not allow for this, but if you are able to, we would love to see everyone's lovely faces. If you are having any connection issues, please privately chat Karen or Echo IT for assistance. As a note, these sessions are being recorded and will be shared on our website. Therefore, to ensure privacy, no personal health information is allowed at any point during the session. This includes names, addresses, birth dates, or any other identifiable information. Additionally, the slide presentation from today's session will be uploaded and shared on iEcho for future reference as well as a post-session email. At the end of the session, the Echo team will send out a post-session survey link. We kindly ask you to complete it as it provides feedback on how to refine these sessions to better address your priorities. Finally, Echo is an all teach, all learn environment, and we do encourage everyone to participate in the conversation and raise questions. Let us always make every effort to continue having a space that is respectful and safe to learn for all. With that, I'd like to go ahead and move on to some team introductions. With us today, we have Dr. Walker.
Good afternoon, everybody. Crystal Walker, physician assistant with the Doctorate of Medical Sciences, and I am currently the Director of Clinical and Medical Services for our Substance Use Department with MHMR of Tarrant County. Happy to be here and welcome, everybody.
Thank you so much. We also have with us Dr. Waku.
Good afternoon, Siddharth Waklu. I am in the Department of Psychiatry at UT Southwestern. I'm the interim chief for the Addiction Division and the Addiction Psychiatry Fellowship Director. Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Our case presenter for today is Dr. Ramesh.
Hey everyone, this is Jan Ramesh. I'm a hospitalist at Del Seton Medical Center and part of Shout, Texas. I'm happy to be here.
And our didactic presenter for today is Melissa Chambers.
Hello, everybody. How are y'all this morning? Hope y'all are doing well. First, I just want to thank the program for inviting me to come speak. And we are going to go over CPS and how you can help advocate for your patients a little bit better. So my name is Melissa Chambers, and I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor and case manager here at GPS Hospital in Fort Worth and Tarrant County. And I also was a previous CPS worker, so it was a good fit between the two.
Thank you so much for being here today, Melissa.
Thank you.
Karen, you can go ahead and share the slide. Melissa, once the slides are being shared, feel free to take it away.
Okay. So we are going to be looking at navigating child protective services and advocating effectively for your patients. Next. Do we read the disclosures? Is that something you'll require?
You don't have to.
No? Okay. Go ahead and next. So our objectives today is describe what Child Protective Services, or CPS, can do during a CPS case and explain the patient's rights, outline the key steps and process in a flow of a CPS case, and then demonstrate how you can advocate for your patients and what resources are available to support them. Okay, next. So Department of Family and Protective Services, knowing your rights. Okay, go ahead. So one of the first things after the call has come in and CPS has knocked on their door is knowing what your patient can do during an investigation or legal case, and a case becomes a legal case if the children are removed from the parent's care and from the home. So one of the first things is know your rights. When CPS comes to the door, they should be providing you a list of what your rights are. Something important to remember is your patient does not have to answer the door. They do not have to participate. With that being said, though, however, it does not mean that they won't go back and get a court order mandating participation. But that is a right that your patient has. So knowing your rights, following up, this is very important, following up what has been submitted, what services, what is the next step, all that information, and being active in your case. So a lot of times CPS workers have very high caseloads, and it's kind of the squeaky wheel gets the most attention, right? So if your patient is doing their services and they're doing what they should be, sometimes, not always, but may get lost in the cracks. So really encouraging them to be active in their case, speaking with their workers frequently, is very, very important. Keeping track. So keeping a log, people you talk to, on your service plan. Who did you speak with at Crystal? I'm going to use you in MHMR for example. Who did you talk to? When is your appointment? When do your services begin? When is your what medication, if any, were you prescribed? When does cancel? Like these are all important to log because these are things that the workers are going to be asking about. Be assertive and ask for what you need. So patients, sometimes CPS comes in and everybody knows that they have the power to remove children. So that can be a little intimidating. Sometimes we don't want to ask for needs because we just want to get CPS out the door, right? Like, yep, I'll do that. Perfect, done. But if you have needs, if a patient needs a safe place for their baby to sleep and needs a pack and play, ask for that. Protective daycare is something that's very important to ask for. And they refer to it as protective daycare, but if that allows mom or dad to go to work and provide for the family, be assertive and help them, advocate for them to be assertive and ask for what they need. And then, of course, if it has gone to a legal case and the children have been removed, following court orders and always talking to the lawyer if you have one, not making rash decisions or decisions on your own. Always go with the guidance of your attorney. So these are all things that the patients can do during the investigative stage. Okay, next. So now let's talk what, so CPS has kind of restricted again a little bit. And they have what's referred to as CPI, investigative unit of CPS. But what can they do during the investigation? So knowing both sides and having that knowledge can really help you guide your patient in the direction that they need to go for the best outcomes. But they inform parents and guardians of their rights. This should happen first thing, first contact. Okay. Interviewing those around the family that have knowledge about the alleged abuse or neglect. This can include whoever called it in if they were not under anonymous. Okay, so if grandma called in the concerns, they're going to talk to grandma. Talk to those who have knowledge of the family. So they may be talking to the schools, a doctor, if they have a service center, anyone that they can talk to really form a picture of what the situation is. They can take photos, including your child and your home. It is not abnormal for them to meet your child at school if they are school age, talk with them, take photos of them, come to your house, take photos of your cabinets, your bedrooms, your bathroom. Do we have everything? Is it a safe environment? This helps document that. inspecting your home. Again, walking through, opening the fridge, opening a cabinet, like this is all, do you have food? Do you need food? Is this a need? And that's what they're doing. They're assessing the whole entire time. Examine your child for poor health and injuries to your children, especially if the call came in intake on a physical abuse. Obtain copies of police reports, CPS history, and school and medical records. So before a worker even goes out to meet with the child or goes to the home, they are looking up any CPS history this family has had. Did they participate? Were they willing? This is kind of gives them an image of what this could look like. They can request medical or psychological examinations on your child. And they can also ask you to complete evaluations to ensure no additional services are needed. Kind of in the way for our LCDCs here, if there are any, same way that we do an assessment looking for resources, they just have their own form of the evaluation. Okay, next. So this is a CPI investigation flow chart. So as you can see, there are many different ways that a case can go. All cases first come into statewide intake, where the call or the email is received and reviewed. It can be given a priority in, which means there's absolutely probably nothing here. So they can go ahead and close the case at that point. It would never even make it to a worker. Okay. Priority 2, they have 72 hours to make contact. It will then go to an investigative screener, then could possibly go to an investigation. And then, as you can see from the investigation, it could close the case. It could close with community services. And this is their kind of their alternative response. So if you follow party 2 goes into investigative. So alternative response is a part of CPS that they've had around for quite a few years now. And it is almost like a fast track. So it's a lower level case, but if we can connect you with community resources, then we can close your case. So for example, a mom tests positive for marijuana, they may come in, say, you know what, we're going to have you do a marijuana one-day education class. We're going to need notes and a certificate that you attended, and we're going to close your case because now we've provided you education, right? And the dangers. A case can be open, then referred to Family-Based Safety Services, also referred to as FBSS. This is the stage of service I worked in. So anywhere from approximately 3 to 9 months, they will work with the family. And this is where services are really going to be offered and a service plan created. So it may include substance use treatment, mental health treatment, any kind of screenings or evaluations. And it all lists where it should be, with who, and this is why keeping track on your log, this is where this really becomes important. Again, who did you talk to? What time? What day? What did they say? Did they tell you to call back? Did you call back? And it really helps to make your meetings with your worker just go that much smoother because you already have all the information that they're going to need. From the investigation, you could see it could also go to, and from intake, it could also be a priority 1, meaning that they have 24 hours to make contact with the child and or family. With the investigation, it could also lead to a safety plan being in place where, or a safety placement, maybe if it's a domestic violence situation, dad's going to go to the aunt's house, mom's going to stay at home with the kids. And this is how it's going to be till we get some services started. A safety plan could also include you're not going to take your child out of the state of Texas, if that's been an issue. So there are different things, and they're very just particular to that family. The last that it could be at this point is a removal. So the children are removed from their home. Some are placed with family if that is a viable option. And it's always the first option. Children do better with mom and dad. And if we can't be with mom and dad, we do better with family. If that is not an option, then we may look at foster care. From there, then the family will then begin moving through the court process and going to court hearings, working their services, going to status hearings. And the judge can order whatever that the judge would like to order for that family to help them. But the goal is always, we don't want to be in your life again. We would rather see you at the Walmart or the park out with your kids, rather than being another case, right? So did we offer all the services? Did they have a safety plan in place if that was needed? Did they do everything that they could to make sure that the children were safe? The parents got the services, or the family got the services that they needed. We could close the case and we never have to be back here again. Always the goal. And sometimes reminding patients of that is this doesn't necessarily have to be a negative experience. It could have just been the awakening that they needed to get the help or the services that maybe they know they've needed, but haven't taken that step to get. Okay, next. So the Texas Family First pilot program.
Hey, Melissa.
Sorry, not sure how that happened.
Nice.
They're too risky for FBSS, but the child could be kept safely at home with the court oversighting that family and offering evidence-based services. So the TFF program focuses on keeping the family as a whole unit, preventing the need for removal and placement in the foster care system, but with the assistance of the Texas court system. If approved by a judge, then they would appoint an attorney to the family and order the family to participate in TFF services, Texas Family First. The kind of caveat to this is it's voluntary. So some families will choose to participate and have that extra. Some, it can be very intimidating. And this may be where when you're talking with a patient, some coaching may come in, some motivational interviewing can come in. But sometimes it is intimidating to think the courts are in my life. I've got a judge. Like that could be very, very overwhelming. But this is a newer program, and they're finding good success with it. More services are being completed, and more importantly, more families are staying together. Okay. So with, we just went over a normal case flow. So with the Texas Family First, we've got the intake, the investigation, the risk and safety assessment, which is the assessment that we were talking about that every family in the FBSS goes through. And again, it's assessing for what are risk factors, what services are needed, what services can help those risk factors throughout the process. So from that, it could go to FBSS if they refuse to participate in the Texas Family First program. So Again, remember, it's voluntary for them. So if they're like, you know what, think not, we're going to go to FBSS. And again, anywhere from 3 to 9 months, depending on how the family is working services and how quickly the issues are being corrected. They would petition the court for TFF. At that point, the court appoints a attorney for the client, and then they are in the Texas Family First program under a court order. So just like any other court order, they would be required to attend hearings and complete the services that are on their plan. Again, the only difference with this versus a removal in court is the children are still at home. There was not a removal. So this can be a big benefit to a lot of our patients, getting that extra help and guidance, but also like learning to be accountable for themselves in their choices, which is a great skill to learn. However, especially when substance use may be a factor. So this would court order them to go to treatment services. Again, things that maybe they wanted to do, but this is the push to get that done. And also, you also have the risk of the case just being closed. But this is how a Texas Family First process would work. Okay, next. So we assist our patients both in CPS, and I am with the Mom and Baby program within JPS. So what we do is we work with moms that are pregnant or parenting children 5 and under with current or past substance use. The substance use can be from 10 years ago. They are screened, diagnosed, assessment, treatment plan, groups. We do it all. So we do assist them with CPS, understanding, identifying who is in their support network. This is one of the biggest ways to help your patients. A lot of times we think, oh, who can help? Nobody. Everybody usually has somebody, right? Maybe it's the neighbor who has watched the kids 3 days a week for the last 3 months. It's part of your support network. Do you have a friend at work? What about one of the kids' teachers? Really looking at the whole picture and identifying who is in that support network. So key factors include, can they trust them? Can they show empathy? Accountability? Can they hold you accountable for what you may or not be doing? But at the same time, are non-judgmental. Also a good listener and communicator. So if we have Karen, who is in her support network, again, we've identified maybe it was that friend at work that has access to resources or has access to something that she may need for the family. Again, building that support network because it's really who's going to carry them after CPS pulls out and Mom and Baby pull out and MHMR pull out and they're finally on their own. This is who's going to help sustain them with their recovery, with holding together whatever brought CPS in to begin with. This is going to help sustain them. So really, really pushing and sitting down with them and helping identify who is in that. Okay, next. So resources that are available through social services and community partners such as Mom and Baby. So we can refer to any services just like CPS can. So individual and family counseling. Again, Miss Crystal, I'm going to pick on you. So if I knew that we needed counseling and maybe medication management, I'm going to make that referral over to you. Or the OBOT program, maybe that's something that we need to work on, right? We're identifying needs. Parenting classes, substance abuse treatment, domestic violence education, and this can cover both BIP and VIP, so batterer intervention prevention program, and as well as the victim intervention program. Daycare, like we were talking about, protective daycare. Will that allow the parents to go to work? And then also care portals that have a lot of different resources that are available to them. Okay, next. This is a good one to screenshot, especially if you are if you're in the Tarrant County area. The first one will help. The other will help anywhere in the state that you are. So Northwest Legal Aid, they can provide free legal resources based on meeting a variety of their requirements. TexasLawHelp.org, a lawyer referral service at the state bar. The ombudsman, so this is somebody who works kind of for the state, but looks after, is in the people's interest, right? So if they are having an issue, they can't get a hold of their worker, they've tried their manager, they want to get their case closed, they've done their services, nobody will respond back, the ombudsman would be a good one to contact. And then if you need additional resources, always speak with your case manager, your counselor, whatever, doctor, whatever role that you play. That would be great as well. How am I on time? Doing good? Okay. And then references that were used. Something I want to point out. The Department of Family and Protective Services Parents Guide to a CPS Investigation is on the CPS website. All of their policies, their procedures, again, all listed on their website. So there's no question as to, are they following this? Are they following that? If you're questioning it, read it. Let's see what it says. Help the patient advocate for themselves. Again, Texas Law Help, and then the Texas Family Code also is a good resource to look at, because this is where a lot of CPS cases are drawn from. I also want to point out we do parenting groups here at Mom and Baby, as I mentioned before, but one of the groups that we do, I have partnered with one of the risk and safety specialists of CPS, and she comes in, and all of our groups are virtual, just like we're doing now. But she comes in and she holds a group for all of our clients as well. She cannot speak to what their individual case is, like she can't sit there and look it up and say, okay, do this. However, we do a full presentation. This was part of it, so that our clients are aware and know how to advocate and where to go for assistance to help continue advocating for themselves and their families and their children.
Great. Thank you so much for the great presentation, Melissa.
Thank you.
At this time, thank you. Thank you for being here. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor to our learning network for any questions that we have for Melissa on her presentation.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here. It was a really useful presentation.
Thank you.
I had never seen that CPI investigation flow chart. Like that in and of itself, that one slide was so helpful. I do have a question. You had mentioned when you were talking about that needs that they might have, like a playpen or a safe place to sleep, that those are some of the things. Sometimes I find my patients don't even know what their needs are. Like they don't know that they need that. Is there a list like you provided with the list of resources like daycare and parenting classes? Is there a list of items or things like that that they can help with? Or do you just kind of have to help them assess what they need?
I'm going to have to a degree, help them assess. However, when CPS is doing this assessment, they're doing it in the home. So they're looking at all the things. So when, I said we're opening a fridge and cabinets and they're bare, okay, now we know here's a list of food banks in the area. Here's a list of churches that offer food and clothing if you need it. They also have the capability to put in requests for items such as beds, pack and plays. We also here at Mom and Baby offer pack and plays and sleep safe education to our clients, because that's one of the most important things. Babies sleep a lot. Where are we going to put them and how do we keep them safe, right? One of the most interesting things too is when I was mentioning that we do the group, with her being risk and safety, she reviews any child death cases, almost death cases, high risk cases, in which they have found is that no matter in child death, no matter their income levels, education levels, social, like where they live, area, rural, city, doesn't matter. Marijuana was the number one factor that all the families had in common. So I wanted to share that. I always thought that was very interesting. But I hope that answered your question, Crystal. They're at the house, going through the things. But I would, if you created a list even on your own, walk through your house and see what your typical needs are, and kind of go from there. And if you need help with that, I did put my information in the chat. You can email me. We can get together. I don't mind at all.
Perfect. And then one last question.
Yes.
Do you have any idea kind of what for those different levels, right? Like the priority 1 cases, priority 2 cases, kind of the average length that these cases stay open? Because the feedback that I get from my patients who are involved in the case, it feels very long. Like it takes a very long time to get through it, which is anxiety inducing in and of itself. So
Exactly.
do you know kind of on average what you're seeing, how long these cases are staying open?
I can kind of give some insight into this. CPS has a very high turnover rate. And a lot of the cases that are extended, I've been trying to get a hold of my worker for 3 weeks now. Okay, so at that point, I'm going to suggest reach out to their manager. Everybody has a boss, right? So reaching out to that manager, seeing if we can get a hold of them. And this is where, when I mentioned earlier about the ombudsman, like, can't reach my worker, manager's been on vacation for 2 weeks. Now we're at 5 weeks. I haven't heard anything. But yes, it is very stress inducing, not knowing, and I'm still under CPS, under their thumb. They try to close cases as quickly as possible. Another factor could be trying to connect with collaterals. For example, if they're trying to get a hold of me to see if they enrolled, but I'm on vacation, now we've waited a week. And sometimes that can push it out to just trying to confirm services with collaterals. Did we connect with the services so we can close the case and we can kind of back out? Are they participating? If not, that can extend it.
There is a question in the chat from
Yes.
Bobby. Bobby, you're welcome to unmute and ask.
Oh gosh, that might mean I have to find myself. No,
Hello, Bobby.
Hi, I just thought that was a great question about the length, and somewhere along the line, I thought it was 18 months, and it's just always kind of in my thoughts, because when they say, "Oh, I've been doing this for a year," I'm like, "Oh shoot, well you better get this stuff done," kind of thing. But somewhere along the line, I heard it was no more than 18 months.
And sometimes if it is a year, they could be in the FBSS stage, where ideally 3 to 6 months would be great. However, if they get a slow start, they can't get contact back from the service provider. That can extend as well, right? So 9 months, 10 months could look very realistic in a FBSS case sometimes depending on those factors. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great questions, everybody. In the interest of time, I'd like to go ahead and move on to our announcements. But if anybody has any additional questions for Melissa, feel free to post them in the chat, Melissa, if you don't mind answering them.
Yes,
Love
absolutely.
to keep the conversation going.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. All right. To claim your CME credits, please ensure that you have a registered account. Then text attend 101 01116 to 844-502-1338 no later than midnight tonight. When you complete your post-session survey, you help shape these sessions around your needs. We created this series for you, and your feedback truly matters. Your ideas, experiences, and suggestions guide how we plan these future sessions, what topics we cover, how we deliver content, and the kind of support we offer. Please take a moment to complete the post-session survey, as your input helps make these Echo sessions even better. Next slide, please. The Center for Substance Use Training and Telementoring offers technical assistance for various substance use disorder needs and topics via our team of experts. To request technical assistance, please complete an online request form, and we'll be pleased to help you. Next slide, please. Do you have a difficult case that you or your team have encountered? CSTAT offers you the opportunity to present any challenge your organization is encountering and receive feedback from our hub of experts and broader learning community. There is no need to prepare a formal presentation. We will provide a case form for you to fill out to assist with your case presentation. Please email us at cstat@utesca.edu. Next slide, please. Texas Substance Use Symposium, TxSUS, is back March 2nd and 3rd, 2026 in San Antonio, Texas, and we're thrilled to reunite our statewide community once again. For the latest updates, please visit txsus.org. Next slide, please. And please join us at our next session on November 13th for a session on substance use disorders in older adults. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our case presentation. Dr. Ramesh, once Karen shares the case, please walk us through it.
All right. Thank you all for having me today. The case that I'm going to present today, I've had a couple of similar cases in the last month or so, and would love y'all's input on how you manage patients like this. So this is a 43-year-old unhoused male with opioid use disorder, injects about 1 gram of fentanyl a day for many, many years. He also had a history of an car accident 5 years ago, which sort of increased his opioid use and chronic back pain ever since. He was admitted to the hospital in August for management of his acute on chronic back pain and a vertebral fracture. During that hospitalization, he underwent a bone biopsy because we thought that there was an infection in his bone, but it was negative, and so he did not need surgical management or antibiotics. He had been discharged in July for kind of a similar presentation, but never made it to the methadone clinic. The plan in July was to discharge him straight to the methadone clinic for initiation of methadone, which was started in the hospital at 30 milligrams twice a day. When questioned as to why he didn't go to the clinic, he said he wasn't sure why. He wasn't sure about it at the time, and the location was in an area that was inconvenient for him. Our substance use navigator discussed this a little bit more with him, and he became kind of willing to try again at a different clinic location. So we sent the methadone clinic referral, and he was kind of ready to go to the methadone clinic after discharge and continue getting methadone. He was restarted on that methadone dose that worked for him back in July and was consolidated before discharge. And also for his acute pain, he was given baclofen, Tylenol, gabapentin, and hydromorphone during the hospitalization. Um, I went off service before this patient was ready to be discharged. Um, and there was a plan for him to discharge early in the morning to the clinic because their intakes, new patient intakes, only happen on like 2 days of the week at 6 a.m. But I believe what ended up happening was he was ready, medically ready to discharge the previous afternoon. So he was discharged the previous afternoon. He told the providers that he would go to the methadone clinic. And because of his opioid use disorder, he was not discharged with any acute pain medications. I don't think he ever made it to the methadone clinic. And he's come back a couple of times and left against medical advice before being restarted and reestablished with the methadone clinic. If you could go to the first page, I can talk about the questions that I have for the group. So I guess my main questions are, given the fact that methadone clinics have very limited time for new patient intakes, they can be geographically located in areas that are inconvenient for patients, especially for unhoused patients. What are some strategies to increase successful methadone follow-up? And then for patients who have acute pain on top of opioid use disorder, what might be appropriate to discharge them with for a bridge before they make their clinic appointment? And I guess what strategies can be implemented during that transition period between hospital discharge and follow-up to decrease the risk of return to street drugs? I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions. I know that was a lot of information. But yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh. I would like to open up the floor for our case discussion. Are there any questions from our team or our learning network today on the case?
Excellent case. And this brings up a lot of issues with barriers with so many of our patients. So I have a couple of questions. Did you guys pre-arrange or pre-set up that intake? Did you do consultation with the methadone clinic? And was there a plan for any sort of warm handoff, like a peer support specialist or a counselor or somebody that could make that transition to ensure that that warm handoff happened?
I don't remember with this particular case. I think we did send the clinical clinical information of this patient to the clinic that he wanted to go to. And I do believe that there was some direct communication with the doctor at that clinic about him. I don't know if there was any services that that clinic provided to help, like with the transportation or anything like that. I will say I had a similar case this past month, and I was on for the entire duration of that case. And I was in constant contact with the methadone doctor before the patient's discharge, letting them know the updates about their dosing, their clinical course, when they were going to be discharged, and what time. So that was definitely a part of this, part of the more recent case that I had, but I think there's a little bit less know-how amongst the hospitalists at my hospital as to what to do with patients like this.
Right, because one of the things that I would want to communicate is that how you guys have been dosing it with a split dose, right? Because many OTPs or methadone maintenance programs, that's relatively rare from my experience. Most of them are single day dosing only. And so making sure that that is collaborated and communicated to ensure that the patient is getting what they need. And then the second thing is transportation, right? You said he's unhoused, unreliable transportation. Was that being addressed in any way with like making sure the methadone clinic that was chosen is on a good bus route and he has bus passes to get there every day? Or what type of resources were either talked about or arranged? Because I foresee that being probably the biggest barrier for this patient is physically getting there. Or if they can't physically get there, like what the alternative might have been discussed.
Yeah, definitely, I think for the patient intake, the hope was that we could discharge him straight to the clinic so he could get there at 6 a.m. on the day of the intake that happens. Unfortunately, I think he was medically ready for discharge the day before. And that kind of leaves him in a gap as to how to get there. I think he had said, I'm going to plan to take the bus or walk if I'm in the area, but the patient himself like moved around a lot in the city. So it wasn't 100% certain.
Dr. Walkley, I see you have your hand raised. Feel free. Oh, it looks like you're muted.
Dr. Ramesh, great case, and Dr. Walker did bring up some excellent points. Now, the updated methadone OTP regs allow for telehealth screening. There's a comment in the so it's not necessarily that patients have to be seen in clinic for the initial intake. They can be seen via telehealth, and I was wondering whether that was considered. And so that would clearly make things easier. I think uh, that warm handoff comment by Dr. Walker is excellent. I mean, if a warm handoff from you as a hospice to the medical director of the methadone clinic, that would make a great difference because you're really emphasizing to them, to the clinic, is how important it is for him to get engaged in treatment. I think that, and the and now, of course, the regs are in such a way that within the regs have at methadone clinics have become very flexible. And of course, every methadone clinic is different. But within a few weeks of being in a methadone clinic, people can get takeouts now. What used to take within 4 weeks, people can get up to a month of treatment, considering the. So in a patient who has limited transportation, so many physical limitations, I think that should be something that can be talked about in the warm in the doc-to-doc communication. And because this is what we learned from COVID is, as COVID happened, people got more takeouts. There was no methadone diversion. I mean, that's why we have the regs we have today, is because COVID taught us that patients coming less to the clinic was a win-win for everyone. Patients did better. They were able to hold on to jobs. It was more convenient. They didn't have to travel to a clinic every day. So I think and then of course the decision to do split dosing, or as you know, for pain control, a patient will need BID or TID dosing of methadone. That's also the decision of the medical director. You can I ran the methadone clinic at the VA for over a decade. I would just make those clinical decisions based on my own this, and I would document that the patient has chronic pain and will not benefit by single daily dosing and has to be dosed BID or TID for better pain control. So, and then that way it takes the need for you to add another opioid analgesic on top of the methadone, which people are very hesitant to do in a patient like him.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Dr. Waklu. I think here it is definitely clinic specific as to which providers will allow for telehealth and which ones won't. Telehealth was definitely much bigger during the COVID era, but I think we have been met with limited success with telehealth patients for patients who go to SNF, for example. And so I think that the telehealth movement is a little bit less here at the methadone clinics. Although I could be wrong, it could be coming back at some point. But yes, the take-home dosing is definitely something that the clinic directors tried to do as soon as possible, especially for these patients. It's just about, I think, helping that patient get to that first appointment and seeing like what their need is.
Great. Dustin, I see that you had posted a comment about a bridge program. Would you be able to unmute and share a little more about that?
Yeah. So bridge programs are historically used to help bridge people from inpatient or ER to, long-standing, long-term addiction clinic homes. We have one here in Fort Worth. They don't prescribe methadone, obviously, but for any other, substance, we try to initiate, medications for substance use treatment in the hospital setting or ER. And then there's no appointment required. It's very low barrier. They can just walk into our bridge program, get connected with primary care, specialty care, and then get, evaluation or refills of their medications. Usually on a weekly or every other week basis. We try to get them established into their, final clinic within 2 to 4 weeks. And we had pretty good success with that model. So I think this would be a great instance for, for utilizing one of those, one of those models to try to get people seen and prevent, return to use, et cetera. So that's our bridge.
Great, thank you for sharing. And I know Dr. Walker had shared in the chat, but are there any OTP providers in the Austin area on this call who would be able to weigh in with some input or some thoughts?
Hey folks, this is Oliver Garcia with WTCR West Texas Counseling and Rehabilitation. Not specifically in the Austin area. We have a location in Temple and we have locations in the Dallas area and across West Texas. Just to give a little bit of the OTP perspective, I fully agree with everything that's been said. I think these are very useful suggestions. I want to indicate to you all and to the broader community that these bridge programs do work. We have a formal bridge program established in Dallas with Methodist. And with Baylor as well. And it is essential to get that communication started as early as possible. We have informal bridge programs set up with hospital locations wherever else that we can do. And what I would strongly suggest to the community here is that especially in the hospitalist setting, get your practitioners and your case managers in particular to communicate with the OTP immediately. We do have, like, for speaking for ourselves, and I know that we're not the only ones that are doing this. We do have the medical director speaking with the hospital personnel all the time, be it a social worker or a case manager, and we have counselors doing the same. So what we do to try to minimize the admission time is we actually start the admission, yes, by telehealth, even by phone or video, the afternoon before. A lot of these hospital discharges are happening in the afternoon. We know all that, and so what we really have to do is get that person in there in the morning, right? And so one of the things that starting the pre-admission does is cut down that admission time the next day when we have to do the physical assessment. Yes, you can do all of this by telehealth, but eventually they do need to present at the clinic. And that's really the challenge, right? By having more communication on the hospital side and knowing specifically where the clinic is, what the clinic procedures are, get there at 5:30 or at 6 in the morning, and this is what's going to happen to you, and no, it's not going to take all day, right? You're going to get a physical assessment, and then we're going to get you medication. And yes, we do split dosing. Then these patients will be more encouraged to present. We obviously are always going to have the logistical hurdles. I mean, we've had our clinics located near major bus routes for 30 years, but that doesn't help when the bus is at 5 in the morning and one is only coming every 15 minutes. Right, people still, especially for the unhoused community, right? These things are going to be difficult, and there's not necessarily a lot of funding in place for those types of things. We all saw what happened during the COVID funding where, we had transportation vouchers and they all went away, right? So there is going to be some barrier intrinsic to just it costs money to do all of these things. But if we want to mitigate these barriers short of like getting the individual to actually make that critical decision to go to treatment, right? Then what we can do is really hone in on what I view in our experience doing these programs as what the presenter said, as a deficit in the communication between the hospitals and the OTPs. We stand ready to engage and increase that communication. I know the OTP community feels the same way. So just pick up the phone and call. We are making direct outreach to your case managers, to the EDs, right, to the pregnancy wards, right? So get your professionals to actually contact these clinics, right, so that we can put you in touch with our personnel and we can do that warm handoff, because those warm handoffs, when they work, right, are really great, because you do have that bridge program. And the statistics, I think everybody knows, right? Once you get a person initiated into this treatment, they're going to tend to stay in it, and it's fantastic from a harm reduction perspective and an all outcomes perspective. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Oliver. Melissa, I did see that you posted a question in the chat. Do you want to unmute and share your question?
My thoughts were possibly like a one-time courtesy, like Uber transportation, just to get there, start the process. But also for the clients that have Medicaid, there's transportation offered through Medicaid. They have to set it up a couple days in advance, but that could be another way to address that barrier as well for that certain population.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, a really, really great talking points, everybody. I want to give some space for any final questions, thoughts. Dr. Weems, I know you shared an article if you wanted to, or unmute and add a little bit on that.
Well, thanks, Dr. Ramesh, for the great case and all the contributors in this great discussion. The link I put, I don't have any financial relationship to, but I found it really helpful. It's Immersa, so one of our national professional orgs. They have a recent podcast about innovations in care and focusing on implementation and clinical operations. And they're talking about a novel way of getting methadone outside of hospitals or OTPs via the 72-hour rule. And they're talking about at discharge, so potentially applicable to this case. And then also in the withdrawal management or quote unquote detox setting. So if anybody's interested in really pushing their care model or understanding cool, innovative stuff that start at BMC and this is OHSU, that's a great resource.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. Thank you, everybody who shared all your thoughts, input, perspectives. With that, I'd like to go ahead and move on to our summary of recommendations. Dr. Walker, could you please give us our summary of recommendations for today?
Absolutely. We had an excellent day today. Thank you to Melissa for giving us our didactic, our presentation, to help for us to be more knowledgeable and to help our clients be more knowledgeable when dealing with CPS and CPS cases. And that presentation will be sent out, so you guys will have access to all those great resources and charts and graphs that she had. And then as far as our case presentation from Dr. Ramesh, really good case about a 43-year-old white male who has had about a 5-year history of chronic pain after an auto ped accident left him with severe injuries. And he has been using fentanyl every day. He does come to the hospital on a semi-regular basis, once in July, then in August. And it sounds like the hospital has been trying to get him connected with methadone, but due to his unstable housing, lack of transportation, it has been difficult to get over that first hurdle, which is to get him to that first appointment. So some of the suggestions from our learning network was utilizing warm handoffs, right? Have an actual staff person that can help coordinate that, if not help get them to that appointment directly. The second item was implementing a bridge program. Now, this is a more big picture item that could be brought to the hospital about the importance, especially with Dr. Ramesh, your comment that this isn't the first type of patient y'all have dealt with like this. So if this is a repeated issue, a system-wide change of implementing a bridge program would be incredibly helpful. And then a couple of other things revolved around transportation assistance. If you have Medicaid, going through the Safe Ride program. If you have extra funding within your own system, implementing Lyft Healthcare or Ubers to get them to that appointment, or any other type of transportation motivations to get over that barrier. And then the last suggestion from Oliver, which was amazing, is that maybe set them up while they're physically in the hospital with you. Set them up. If they don't have a cell phone, let them use the telephone or whatever device is available there in the hospital with a case manager or worker and get that pre-screening started. It'll introduce them to the staff at the clinic. It'll make them feel more connected so they're more likely to attend that first appointment. And once they attend their first appointment, they're much more likely to follow up after that. So, excellent suggestions from the community. A great discussion today. We appreciate all of you being here.
Most definitely. Thank you to everyone that attended today's session. As a reminder, to claim your CME credit, you must text by midnight tonight. We also kindly request that you complete the post-sessions feedback survey using the link in the chat. And we look forward to seeing you at our next ECHO session on November 9th. Have a great rest of your week.